Hi there guys, old man Chris back in the shop just for a while. I'll try and keep the intro waffle fairly short. First thing I wanted to mention, there's a guy, Norman, he's up in Dubois, PA, and he's got 2 surface grinders available for sale. He's got a KO Lee model 612 and a Reed model 618 with power feed. If anybody's interested, I would be if I had the money and the space. So KO Lee model 612, Reed model 618 with power feed. If anybody is looking for a surface grinder, get in touch with me. I'll put the email info in the description. Slightly, you know, AT for at instead of the, and they can get in touch and I'll give them a phone number. Alright, I don't know whether Dick's Monarch has gone yet or not, but anyway, I may find out on that. Thanks to Everett for some stickers, which I think I may have showed at the end of the video. What I've made is a sort of copy. Well, I won't go into detail. You'll see a bit later on. Slightly unusual sort of thing. I've got a list a mile long of projects which I really haven't got to this summer. Without dwelling on it, my back is worse than ever. Oh, even right now. Oh, it's ouch. This little project I've done in bits over about 3 days, and it's soon going to get pretty damn cold, and this back is becoming so limiting that with that and low temperatures I honestly don't know when I'll get back in the shop to do anything. So if my video output drops back to very little, I apologise for that. It might be a relief to some, but I just have to play it by ear. I might put up 1 or 2 videos of something totally different just to keep something going, but workshop wise I really don't know. So I hope to make an appearance now and again. It's very frustrating. So anyway, back to what I was doing. You'll see in the video what I have made. It's not perfect, but it didn't come out too bad. Quite a challenge, and at the end just 1 or 2 little odds and ends. So that's it, waffle over. Enjoy the video if you follow it through, and hope to see you later sometime. Just goodness knows when. Anyway, thanks for watching guys, take care of yourselves, bye. Well, this is a bit different. I haven't tried this for a while, this sort of thing, but I've got this empty 30mm case. It's 30 by 170, which I think is the shorter version of the 30, and got this dummy round, which this belongs to a friend of mine, and he acquired the empty case, once fired case, and he wants a mock projectile made in it. And I've got this piece of brass. This is part of what was a very large gate valve, and I need about a 5-inch length for the projectile. This will only just about be enough, and I want to, whatever is going on down here, I want to bring forward. So I'm going to just put a bit of facing off on the end here. I've got it more or less running true, so I want to face this off, get a small centre in it, and then using the live centre bring this out so I can turn most of that length. Now, I'm not worried about that little bit that I've missed, and the idea is, if it works, in fact the projectile may be just slightly shorter than the 5-inch, but we'll have to turn down probably about a 1/4 inch here to a very small diameter, and then take a lot of material off and turn a taper, not a pure taper, it's actually a large radius, and then back to fairly parallel. So we'll see what we're going to get. Actually, slight change of plan, I think. We'll treat this as the parallel diameter section, and then we'll taper down towards this end. There's a lot of material to get hogged off, and then we'll part it, turn it round and put this end back in the chuck. That's going to be the easier way to go, I think, plus the fact that I can check that I've got a suitable diameter on here to fit in the case. This is the messy bit, chips everywhere. I'm taking a pretty rough cut, so it's a bit marked at the moment, but this sort of profile radius cutter here seems to work fairly well for hogging it out. So I'll carry on and get down to closer to where we want. We'll take a smaller cut now at about half the feed rate and see where we finish up. Let's see where we're at this time. .174. That might be getting pretty close. Now I've got a chamfer on the end that's going to go in the case. Like I said, the case mouth isn't very good, but we'll probably manage. And we're going to part this off, and then we can flip this round and do some contour work on it. Nearly there. I've kept the live centre on it, and as it's quite a heavy piece, I've got to be a bit careful at the end of the part off. Now I've been thinking of the best way to do this. I've got a limited travel on the compound, it's only 2.5 inch. 3 would be better, but I've got 1/4 inch spare here, and I'm keeping a little nib here, little nub for the centre, just to keep, well, I mean, this stick out for this diameter isn't really a problem, but I'm going to keep that centre in there for now. I'll have to take it out, when I try and put some taper on here. The idea is I've calculated, or assessed I should say, on the sample one, that from the parallel section, there's a mark here, which you probably can't see that. Anyway, it goes from something like sort of 3 degrees, 6, 7, 10, 11, something like that. And then when I've got the main material removed, then we've got to blend, which I'll might do with a graver actually. I haven't decided yet, so we'll see how we get on. But I've got to take this back a bit further before I do anything else. And so on. Well, I've taken that down a bit further. The centre is going to be in the way actually, so having had a centre hole in there, that little nib's going to have to come off and lose the hole from the centre at some point. Anyway, I've got to start getting some taper on here. It's going to be a long job, so I won't bore you with most of it. Let's see where we go. Take the first few passes at 2 or 3 degrees. Yeah, that's my limit of travel, which is annoying. So I'm going to have some blending to do back here later on. So I'll change angle and take another few cuts. Sorry, that last one, we were out of frame a bit on there. I'm set to 5 degrees now, see what happens. I'm only roughing. Got a slight groove mark there, but no problem, there's a lot of finishing to do. Right, change angle again. There's a lot of guesswork here, I tell you. Right, we're on 7 degrees now. Now, I forgot to mention, I made a cardboard template here, which is to give me some sort of guidance. It's obviously a lot more to come off yet. I don't want to take too much. You can probably see the shape beginning. I'm on 7. I'm going to take 9 degree and then work up from there again. I think this is going to be a bit of an approximation for shape, but we'll keep plodding on. Right, we're onto a stage now where I'm going to use a graver. And this is my graver. It's got a very heavy knurled handle, which gives a bit of extra control. That's a long piece of 1/2 inch tool steel, ground to a diamond point. You can actually cut on both those faces, but also particularly if roughing or relatively roughing, you can cut on these surfaces. And this is very basic sort of T-bar. Finding the center is quite tricky. Got to be pretty careful. Now if I zoom in, you'll see that I made a screw up. Now if you look carefully, you might see the profile is not perfect yet. There's a groove here, and one of my various angle cuts I went a bit too far. Silly boy. So I've got a lot of material to take off here anyway, so that we will actually be pulling this profile into the area here until we get close to something like the original. At least fairly close to it, I hope. So this is a very slow job. Way too much standing, but I'll show you a little bit of it, and if there's a need to mention anything whilst it's running, I'll put a voiceover on later on. I think if I haven't got manual focus set, I'm afraid. Let's see if I can get away with that. On auto, it likes to focus on the chips. Let's leave it at that for the moment. That gives you a general idea. Obviously at the end we'll be using fine grit paper to get a finish, but we've got to get more material off there yet, quite a bit. So I'll come back to you later on. Still got a way to go. It's more or less fine tuning it at the moment. Well, I didn't want to bore you with all that graver work. This is well, it's approximating. It's not quite such a point on it, but I don't think I'll worry about that. The more point, the more vulnerable. But anyway, I'm just putting some 320 grit on here just to begin to even it out. You probably see we've lost that annoying line, which was lucky really, because I really did overdo that angle cut earlier. And now I'll go on to what do we got here? This is some 400 grit. Yeah, it's coming up fairly good. A bit more to do to that yet, but we're getting there. And then the case, unfortunately this case isn't the best example. I started doing a bit of buffing on it. Yeah, not the best case at all, but we'll clean this up a bit better than this before we put the projectile in. Alright, we're nearly there. There are one or two very tiny spots which show, I guess it was probably when I had some chatter from the graver. But final polish, not too bad. So we've got to clean up the shell case if it'll improve a bit. Of course this may eventually be painted, I don't know. But the profiles come out alright. And you probably won't see. Well, from here, don't know whether that'll show at all. Can you see as I rock that it has that radius on it? So it wasn't practical just to do a single cut, parallel cut. It's got to have a radius, and that's what's made it fairly tricky. And I say the point there is a bit less than on the dummy round, but I think we'll take that. Well, there's the finished item. I say the case, let me zoom back a bit. Yeah, the case has got quite a lot of marks on it, but it's cleaned up fairly well. Of course, as soon as you touch it, you get thumbprints. It actually needs to be covered in lacquer, I think. The projectile is, let me put the other piece. Let me put the dummy side by side. Of course the dummy's a bit different here compared to the, let's go that way around. Yeah, I've got a, if you look closely, there's some very slight machining marks still left on there which I hadn't actually seen, but a blind man would be happy to see it, I think. So not too bad a result. I say the tip is not quite so pointy as this one, but the overall profile is a reasonable match. In fact, looking at the two, probably could have blended this area a bit better. There's a slightly obvious transition from parallel, and that's a bit smoother. I've got it in the case now, so I think I'll leave it be. But if you take that one out of the frame, not too bad, I suppose. Thanks for watching. Just a few sundry items. I got this, guess where, Harbour Freight. And I still keep meaning to make a complete attachment for a long belt. But I did a little tweak on this which has helped a lot. The backing on the belt originally was this sort of rubber stuff, and as soon as you got the thing in use it started producing bits of rubber, and this piece, yeah, this piece wore down very quickly. Anyway, I managed to get hold of some graphite backing for a large belt sander, and I cut some pieces off. I don't know whether it's visible there, that black, but that is eminently suitable and better. So one day I'll get round to making up a complete, I don't know, what do we call it? Flexible long belt. Anyway, that's incidental, but an improvement. And I've had a couple of these little hand vices for quite a long time. And a week or two ago, I found this one. Somebody's yard sale. It was just sitting on the table, rusty as hell. It's oily now because I gave it 24 hours in evaporust. And it's really come out quite good. Jaws aren't bad. I love these things. I don't know why. Don't use them very often, but they're real useful. My thanks to my friend Everett's workshop. He sent me a couple of stickers. Thanks, Everett. Another one for the collection. Great stuff. And then finally, I don't know what they call these darn things. There's a guy has a channel. He calls himself Big Clive, and he's always taking apart electrical and electronic stuff. I mean, this is called an opener, but there is another generic name for it. But you take the covers off, and each end you've got this super thin springy steel. And they come in very useful if, say for instance on this calculator, so I wanted to split the case. In fact, there's a big gap on this one, but as you're probably aware, if you use a screwdriver you usually make a hell of a mess, and this is basically unbreakable. You can just get one end just into the crack of the piece you're wanting to split, bit of leverage, and does the job. So I don't know what I mean, that's called opener, but it wasn't very much. eBay, of course. But very useful. I've already used it once in anger. I was very glad I had it. So anyway, that's just the odds and ends.